Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Chris McMahon, and today we are going to talk everything Weight Watchers versus calories for a couple different reasons. But before we dive into this, I just want to remind you to subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, leave a comment below if you find this helpful or you have any other questions, and give a thumbs up. I'm going to be talking a lot about calories, and if you have no idea where to even get started with that, all you got to do is click below, drop your email address, and I'll send you my calorie calculator, which makes everything uncomplicated and easy to digest, no pun intended. I've had so many clients lately who have been onboarded and are specifically working on fat loss, and they're all coming from Weight Watchers. And one comment I had from a client, which was really interesting to me, was it was really frustrating because they really wanted to enjoy like a regular turkey sandwich. And when they calculated their points and did everything, it was like half their points for the day. Now, I really didn't understand the point system or what was involved with it. I knew what Weight Watchers was. I grew up going to weigh-ins with my mom and my dad because they both did Weight Watchers. And one of the most soul-crushing thing about it, watching them, was the embarrassment on their face if they weighed in front of everyone and their weight was up. I remember watching my mom actually barely eat at dinner because her points were over for the day. It kind of tugs at my heartstrings. It really is hard to watch that for anyone, specifically with the work I do, because at no point would I want someone starving themselves in an effort to lose weight, because that's terrible. So we're going to look at this. So let's dive in with my nice graphics here. Weight Watchers versus calories. Points versus calories. Let's start with calories. Calories are simply a unit of measurement. To be more specific, it's how much energy is required to heat 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. That is it. That's it. They can't be good. They can't be bad. They're simply just the amount of energy we're getting from food. That's it. The point system is a little more convoluted and a little more confusing. If you search everywhere online, it literally tells you that you need to sign up for the Weight Watchers app in order to determine your points. Or there are certain individuals who have created their own point algorithm system that you can use. But from what I've gathered, it takes into account your calories, your saturated fats, the sugars you're consuming, fiber, and protein to determine what that point number is. Now, I'm going to say this again. Calories are what matter when you're trying to lose weight. Calories, that's it. You're either in a calorie surplus and gaining weight, you're either maintaining your calories, or you're in a calorie deficit. We hope to be in a calorie deficit. Your point system determined by each food, it's a little confusing because, again, calories are what matter at the end of the day, technically, if we want to get into it. Because that doesn't really teach you the nutrition facts. Like, that's one of the things I hope for all of my fat loss clients that I'm dealing with online is I really want you to have this level of self-efficacy where you feel informed on why you're making the specific choices you're making. Not that it's a high point food, low point food. Like, you don't really want that to be in there. It also considers, like, in Weight Watchers, if you're exercising, then technically you get more points. Like, no, we don't want to think about how many calories we're burning from exercise. Like, we want to work out because we feel good. We see all the benefits that are there from it. And we also want to understand that nutritionally, you have protein, you have carbs, you have fats, you have fiber, if you want to lump that in. Sugar, which I did a whole video about, shouldn't be demonized because it's a carbohydrate. That's all it is. It's a carbohydrate. So we can consider it with that. Protein has 4 calories per single gram. Carbohydrate has 4 calories per single gram. And fat has 9 calories per gram. That's it. So we don't have to get all lost in the weeds here and having to determine what our specific point system is for each food, because Weight Watchers also has 0-point foods. So a 0-point food would be eggs, but we know that eggs have calories. So if someone's eating a shit ton of eggs and therefore having a shit ton of fat, their calories are going to be much higher. Now, yes, Protein is very satiating and filling, and we're going based off the idea of what they might call like I think I saw it online, a set points concept, where like we're going based off getting naturally full from those foods. But if someone is eating very fast, if someone is over consuming food, it's really not a great idea to go based off, well, I'm going to go when I'm full, because sometimes the feeling of being full is comforting. And that's not something someone's used to not being. So that can be more complicated, especially once we stop using a point system. The flexibility. Here's the other side of it. I coach from a flexible dieter's point of view. I do. I go based off calories, protein, and fiber. I let there be wiggle room with carbs and fat, because if we're trying to actually lose weight in this manner, you just have to hit your total calorie range by the end of the day, hit your protein goal, which will make it easier to stick to that, and a fiber goal, because fiber is important for reduce all-cause mortality. And technically, higher fiber foods are lower in calorie. That's it. You can have that wiggle room there, so long as you're hitting that protein goal, because it's important, because protein is a muscle-sparing nutrient in the body, and it also helps you stay full, and technically would boost your metabolism because it requires the most amount of energy to digest. So we want that level of flexibility. But again, like the story from one of my clients, if you eat a sandwich, suddenly half your points are gone for the day. You're really not going to be able to eat much else. Same thing, I remember watching my mom eat lettuce and grilled chicken for dinner because she was over on her points. She could barely choose to eat the other stuff that we wanted to eat. And then that would lead to sometimes this rebound for a lot of folks where, well, now I've got a case of the fuck it's. Now I'm just going to forget the point system. I'm just going to do whatever I want. When in reality, what you can really learn is that, okay, so we're over on calories for the day, but I've been in a calorie deficit the rest of the week. That's not going to impact the scale because we've been in a weekly total deficit. That's something that you aren't educated on if we are just going based simply off points, right? So we want to think of life beyond points, beyond the point system. What happens when we're done with Weight Watchers? We haven't been truly educated beyond like a point system. How do we maintain? Okay, I can only eat 23 points for the rest of my life. That makes no sense, right? Because the goal isn't to diet forever. The goal is to reach maintenance and learn how to maintain and be able to eventually eyeball things, because you've spent so much time tracking and learning what specific things look like that it becomes easier for you. Maintenance is the goal. We don't always want to be dieting. But again, something like Weight Watchers really depends on you being in Weight Watchers forever. That's what it depends on. It depends on that money. Anyone, I'm giving this all away right now. Anyone can go out and calculate their calories. You can download free apps, do all this stuff for free. There's no price point here. There's no secret formula. Like literally, if you click the link below and get my calorie calculator, you can use any calorie calculator you find. I just happen to think the one that I use is really user-friendly, and also there are steps there to make sure that you don't do silly things while tracking calories. There are certain disordered behaviors that someone could start to adapt, such as eating just lettuce and grilled chicken for dinner and nothing else, because they went over on their points. So let's look at two examples just to kind of clarify things a little bit better, because I think this is going to put things in perspective for you. Because again, this is me, the average person. Most likely, if you're doing Weight Watchers or WW as they've reframed themselves, you don't really know what the points boil down to. Like, you don't know. There have been so many people who are like, I don't really know what the algorithm is. I just know that points, the foods that are higher in saturated fat and sugar, regardless of calories, will be higher in points. And foods that are higher in fiber and protein and unsaturated fat are lower in calories. This is great in concept, but if we look at this, avocados are a 2-point food. Avocados are a 2-point food. Yes? And this is based off, like, because it's a single ingredient food, and because of this set points concept, the idea that like it's a food you'll eat, you'll get naturally full from, it's only 2 points. But what if you are only full after you eat an entire avocado? A medium-sized avocado, is about 322 calories for the entire thing. That's 322 calories. It's not 2 points. 0-point foods all have calories still. Like if we look at chicken breast, like an entire chicken breast could have like 150 calories. Yes, it could have like 26 to 35 grams of protein, which is awesome. It's low in fat. It's great, but it's still 150 calories, right? The calories don't disappear. All fruits and vegetables have calories. Yes, no one got fat from eating too much fruit. Banana is a 0-point food. Also happens to be a little higher in calories than something like blueberries. So it helps to have like this thing where we realize, well, we can have more of X or Y because it's higher in fiber. And also we understand the nutritional composition of each thing because it just better informs you. So you don't have to diet forever. So in this example, we have Linda Joe. Linda Joe is 165 pounds. She is a 5'5" female who does light activity, like as of right now, does light activity. Her goal is to lose 30 pounds. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into how Weight Watchers would do this. Okay, so Weight Watchers, technically, I found a Weight Watchers calculator. I'm going to assume it was the closest one. It was from like 2022. They're always updating their algorithm. But it said that this person, because they were 5'5", 165 pounds, light activity level, they would have 25 points per day. 25 points. There's also things called flex points, which I guess it is giving you extra wiggle room there. But again, so it's 25 points. Now, over the course of time, as they lose weight, it would go down to 23 points. The leaner you get, the lower that number would be. Okay, so you're not really getting educated on what the calories would be. It just gets lower and lower and lower, less and less. Because in essence, as you get leaner, you technically would be needing to eat less. But the idea is as you get leaner, maybe your activity levels are also increasing. So they're saying you could add in more points based off how active you are, which is like, yeah, that drives you to move, but that's technically driving you to move to eat, which is not a great place to be. Really not. Pretty disordered, in my opinion. And you have unlimited 0-point foods. But we talked about this already. Like there are foods that are going to be more satiating. Foods that are higher in protein and fiber will be more satiating. Fruits and vegetables, whole foods, things of that nature. But you could still enjoy the other things that you happen to enjoy. It just so happens that they would be higher in points. And again, we don't have a concept of where we're sitting with our actual calories. Calories, for this person, I prefer using a calorie range, not one set fixed number, because if we go over that number, we're more likely to be like, I messed everything up. Especially someone who's on Weight Watchers who might be more overweight, who might be a yo-yo dieter. When I go over on my points, I've messed everything up. What's the point of doing this? And then it's a couple days of going over and over and over and then trying to get back on it again. Then you're going in person to weigh in. Then you have there's just a lot that goes into this. Now, I don't know if they do in-person weigh-ins anymore or anything like that. I think they're called WW workshops now. But regardless, that used to be a part of the culture. But if you have a big calorie range, well, that gives you wiggle room, right? We're not trying to hit one solid number. 1620 is the top end, 1350 is the bottom end. That's it. If you're anywhere in between there, you're going to be in a calorie deficit and you're going to lose weight. Your protein goal is roughly 95 grams of protein. So if we're between 1350 and hitting 95 grams of protein, this person would lose weight. And it would be easier for them if they're hitting their 95 grams of protein because they're going to be more full during the day. It's going to help you recover, build your muscles when you're exercising, all those great things. And you'll get a little boost in your metabolism because it requires more energy to digest. Fiber goal. For every 1,000 calories you consume, you want to think about hitting 14 grams of fiber. So between 1350 and 1620, I would say 20 grams of fiber is a great starting point. Now, you can always go above that, but if you ramp up too quick with fiber, it's easy to get constipated, and we don't want that. So 20 grams would be a great starting point. And here's the cool part. You have wiggle room with your carbs and fats. So long as calories are met, you have wiggle room with your carbs and fats. Notice how I don't mention sugar. Sugar is just a carbohydrate. Why is it important that we have this wiggle room? Well, it means that you are going to be able to fit in the things you enjoy eating while also losing weight. Now, does this mean you can just eat Twix bars throughout the day? No. But if you're in a calorie deficit and you want to have a Twix bar, cool. That still works. That from a micronutrient, macronutrient, like micronutrients are important. That's why we want more fruits, vegetables, higher fiber. All of those things matter. But now you have a more clear picture. Because of this wiggle room, you're aware like, oh, I can have that avocado. I'm going to want to adjust my portion size here. Figuring out portion sizes and adjustments and not just going based off like, well, I'm full now, well, I'm hungry now. Those things take practice. They're more advanced, believe it or not. So if we look at hitting our calorie range, hitting a protein goal, hitting our fiber goal, it becomes easier because you'll also realize that you have wiggle room within your calories. If I can have more wiggle room and I can be more forgiving with myself, then it's easier for me to stick with what I'm doing. Then once we hit our goal weight, guess what? Most likely we're going to increase our calories. Why? Well, what is missing from the Weight Watchers picture is the things that we also want to aim to be doing. Not because we're trying to increase the amount of calories we can be eating, but because from a general health standpoint, they'll all improve. We want to improve our sleep, right? That's going to help with our hunger and our fullness and our ghrelin and leptin levels, which are hunger and fullness hormones. Like that will help with that. We'll also have better decision making that will start to happen. The next part of this is we also want to look at like daily movement, right? Hitting our step count is going to be really helpful for us to know if we are increasing our NEAT, which you might not learn about in Weight Watchers, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. All the little fidgeting, all the moving I'm doing, that actually requires energy, it requires calories. And the leaner you get, the lower your deficit is, you might find the less you want to move. I know, that's interesting, right? Because we say eat less, move more. But for some individuals, the leaner you get, the more severe the deficit, the less your body's going to want to move. Those physique competitors who get so lean, and sometimes we think, oh, they're the healthiest ones, they have so much muscle. They're like blinking less. Their sleep is shit. It's because they've reduced their calories so much, they've gotten so lean, their fat levels are so low, hormonally, everything's askew. I'm not saying that's going to be you, but I am saying that's a common thing. The other side of this is we want to look at resistance training, lifting weights. Lifting weights is going to help because we're going to add muscle. And as we lose fat, we can also lose muscle along the way. So it's important that we're lifting weights and having resistance training. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be 2 times a week. It could be 3 times a week. Building that into your routine is going to help. Also, muscle helps with your metabolism. Now, is it going to make it so that you could eat like a shit ton more? No, in essence, it could be like, oh, we're burning like an apple, right? But that's the whole idea. This muscle sparing is going to be important for us. So we want to make sure that we have resistance training in there. Also, as you get older, you're increasing your bone density, right? All of those things are so important. Drinking more water, very important. I'm assuming Weight Watchers has you drink water. 0 calorie things, totally fine. So if we can work on all of these habits on top of it and understand we could be more flexible with our nutrition and understand that once we hit maintenance, while we may weigh 135 pounds, we might have gained muscle along the way, increased our daily activity levels along the way, right? And it's not uncommon for someone to hit their maintenance and for their calories to be higher than they predict. Because one way you could do this is you could take your goal. So if this person now weighed 135 pounds, right? 135 times, let's say 15, that's 2,025 calories, estimation. You're going to be eating more than when you were in a deficit because we've gained muscle, we've moved more. Weight will float around like between 5 to 10 pounds. We have to understand maintenance doesn't mean being one number forever. It means maintaining our weight, being comfortable floating around. And then the cool thing about gaining eating skills outside of counting points is that you'll know exactly what to do and how to do it. You won't need to pay for a membership to do it. But Weight Watchers doesn't transition you to do that. So I think like any diet, it requires a set of rules. And if we break the rules, break the point system, don't follow that, then you're not going to see the results you're after, but also it's going to skew your view of what everything's supposed to be. So in my point of view, if I had to weigh either, they both use a form of tracking. To be successful in fat loss, you need to track. Being accurate as possible is going to be most helpful for you. But WW doesn't actually teach you about having more flexibility beyond once WW is over. And that's a problem. You shouldn't feel like the day is ruined because you went over on your points. Because you can actually see, like, oh, this is easier to know. I have way more wiggle room. Versus, I missed my 25 points. So those are just a few thoughts about this. If you are going to go into any of this, you got to find what works best for you. If WW works for you, amazing. But remember, as you get leaner, they keep reducing your calories. 23 points. I don't know how many calories that is. The more you weigh, the more points you have. The smaller you get, the less points you have. But that doesn't take into consideration what maintenance actually is. And I think that's a really important thing to consider. So look, if you found this video helpful, do me a favor, give a thumbs up, leave a comment, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, you have notifications turned on. I'm thinking about doing more videos like this, like breaking down common things. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see more of or less of. And without further ado, remember, you're one day away from getting back on track and one day away from realizing how fucking amazing you are.